Hey everyone, welcome back to Love Wins, where the truth matters because it is the truth that sets us free. All right, today we're going to get into the hostile division between Jesus and the church of his day because it is repeating in our day. You say, what do you mean by that? I mean, when Jesus came, he was a Jew. He was dedicated in the temple. He was raised to follow the rabbis, to listen to what the church said by his parents. But when he grew up, he called people to choose between him and those who were seeking to kill him, which was the church. So when Jesus chose his disciples, they were followers of the church, and then they chose to follow Jesus, thinking that the two weren't that different. Sure, Jesus was different, but not that different. So it wasn't until Jesus knew that they knew who he was, when Peter confessed, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God," it wasn't until then that Jesus openly stated plainly what was going to go down. Here's what he said. From that time, from the time the disciples said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God," from that time, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem, the epicenter of their faith, where the temple is, suffer many things from the elders of the church, from the chief priests of the church, and from the scribes of the church, and be killed by them, and be raised the third day. It wasn't just that Jesus said he was going to die, because he actually kept that part for the end. That would be the most hurtful part, the most blow them away part, the most we can't handle this part, the most that will never happen to you part. He kept that till the end so that they could hear everything that came before it. And what came before it was, this is going to go down in Jerusalem at the epicenter of our faith by our faith leaders. And Ecclesiastes Chapter 1, verse 9 and 10 says, "What has been will be again. What's been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." Okay, now let's fast forward to the Gospel of John. And I'm not going to do anything complicated today. I'm not interested in fueling this with my opinion and being accused of foisting my views onto the text. So we're just going to read it. Much like I did a couple of weeks ago with John chapter 8, where Jesus came head on with the church and they told him they were sons of the devil and they picked up stones to stone him. This is Jesus being arrested and what follows. This is chapter 18 of John, verse 1. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples over the brook Kidron, where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, Judas, one of his own disciples. For Jesus often met there with his disciples. Then Judas, having received a detachment of troops and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. At this point, this is being completely led by the church. The Romans have nothing to do with this. Jesus, therefore, knowing all things that would come upon him, went forward and said to them, "Who are you seeking?" They answered him, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus said, "I am." And Judas, who betrayed him, also stood with them. And when he had said to them, "I am," they drew back and fell to the ground. Jesus wasn't, some of your translations insert the word he there, that's supplied. When Jesus said, I am, he's referring back to when he met Moses at the burning bush. And they fell back because they knew what he was saying. Then he asked them again, "Whom are you seeking?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." And Jesus answered, "I have told you that I am." Notice they're calling him Jesus of Nazareth. Because Nazareth, saying someone's from Nazareth is a call down. It's derogatory. It lessens the person. So they're trying to lessen who he is to justify what they're about to do. And Jesus is doing the opposite. I am. I am. I am. Therefore, if you seek me, let the others go their way, that the saying might be fulfilled which was spoken, of those whom you gave me, I have lost none. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Jesus said to Peter, put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me? Even the disciples of Jesus who were loyal to him wanted to fight in the wrong way. That tendency is in all of us. No matter what side of any disagreement we may stand on, no matter what our beliefs are about anything religious or political, that tendency is in all of us. Jesus said, put your sword away. 12. Then the detachment of troops and the captain and the officers of the Jews arrested Jesus and bound him. Again, this has nothing to do with the Romans at this point. This is all Jews. And they led him away to Annas. First, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest that year. Now it was Caiaphas, or Caiaphas, depending on how you prefer to pronounce it, who advised the Jews that it was expedient that one man should die for the people. So he had already convinced everyone, listen, it's for the best of all of us. It's for the common good that we eliminate this person. Be careful the justifications you get caught up in to do things that God clearly says ought not be done. And Simon Peter followed Jesus, and so did another disciple. Now that disciple was known to the high priest, and went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. But Peter stood at the door outside. Then the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to her who kept the door and brought Peter in. Then the servant girl who kept the door said to Peter, you are not also one of the man's disciples, are you? And he said, I am not. Now the servants and officers who had made a fire of coals stood there, for it was cold, and they warmed themselves, and Peter stood with them and warmed himself. Now, it's important to recognize that there isn't one person in the Bible who succeeded apart from Jesus. So to think that you're picking a winning side in any disagreement, that there are those who are righteous fully and those who are evil fully, is a delusion. It's a deception. None of us are good, the Bible says, no, not one. Our only hope is the mercy and grace of God, not some movement, not some ideology, not some correctness, not some anything. All right, we're going to skip ahead. You can read the whole thing if you want. I'm going to skip ahead to Pilate's court. So the Jews have had their say with Jesus, and now we're going to skip ahead to Pilate. Verse 28, same chapter. John 18:28. Then they, the Jews, led Jesus from Caiaphas to the praetorium, and it was early in the morning. But they themselves did not go into the praetorium, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. I don't even know if I need to comment here, but do you see the level of delusion, insanity, self-righteousness, craziness, nonsense that this is? We are about to hand an innocent man over and demand that he be killed unjustly, but heaven forbid we should walk into a Roman room during the Passover and become defiled so that we can't eat the Passover because we'll be unclean. Pilate then went out to them and said, Pilate, the Roman governor, is more accommodating, more reasonable, more everything than they are. Perfect? No. Is he going to do the right thing? Well, no. But still. Pilate then went out to them and said, what accusation do you bring against this man? Verse 30. They answered and said to him, if he were not an evildoer, we would not have delivered him to you. So no evidence, no nothing. We wouldn't have brought him. Just be logical, Pilate. Would we be here early in the morning with all this great inconvenience to us and you if this man wasn't evil? Then Pilate said to them, You take him and judge him according to your law. Now, if you don't understand, the Jews were essentially a nation within the empire. Rome gave them the right to govern themselves in many different ways. Obviously, Rome still had the ultimate authority, and one of those authorities was only Rome could implement the death penalty, which we'll see here. Pilate said to them, verse 31, You take him and judge him according to your law. Therefore the Jews said to him, It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death. In other words, they've already decided what needs to happen. Jesus needs to die. But we don't have the authority to do that, so we're coming to you to do our dirty work. That the saying of Jesus might be fulfilled, which he spoke, signifying by what death he would die. Then Pilate entered the praetorium again, called Jesus, and said to him, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answered him, Are you speaking for yourself about this? And in other words, is this something you really want to know? Or did others tell you this concerning me? Are you questioning about their issues and me, or is this something you really want to know? Pilate answers and says, Am I a Jew? In other words, this is none of my concern. Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done? Now, when Mel Gibson's famous movie came out there like 15, 20 years ago about the crucifixion of Jesus, one of the big questions that was asked in the media and asked by people who watched it is, who was really responsible for the death of Jesus? All you have to do is read the Gospels to know who was really responsible. Again, 35. Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done? I mean, there must be a reason. What is it? Jesus answered, My kingdom is not of this world. Let me read that again. My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight, so that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now, my kingdom is not from here. In other words, if I was trying to win some territory here, if I was trying to defend myself here, if I was trying to gain something here, my followers would fight to defend me, and I wouldn't be walking into the hands of the Jews and just letting them do whatever they want. My kingdom is not of this world. If you are a follower of Jesus, if you believe yourself to be a follower of Jesus, but your main concern is the nation you live in, or the kingdoms of this world, or something centered here, you've missed the plot, and you're not following Jesus. 37. Pilate therefore said to him, Are you a king then? And Jesus answered, You say rightly that I am a king. For this reason I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. Yes, Pilate, I came here from somewhere else, and I am a king, and I'm here for a purpose. 38. Pilate said to him, What is truth? And when he had said this, he went out again to the Jews and said to them, I find no fault in him at all. Now, I haven't watched Gladiator 2. I probably won't watch Gladiator 2, but a trailer came up on my phone a few weeks ago, and it blew me away because I had literally preached the very words that were in the trailer the day before. In one of the trailers, it is said the only truth in Rome is power, or power is the only truth in Rome, or some variation of that. Pilate here, without using the word power, says the same thing. What is truth? What does truth have to do with this? I'm a politician. The Jews have a certain amount of power. I have to maintain law and order here. This is all about getting things done in the most expedient way. Truth really has nothing to do with it. We don't operate on truth in the empire. We operate on what's the best thing to do in a given situation, regardless of what the truth is. I find no fault in this man, he says to the Jews. There's no problem here. Why does he say that? Because if this man has no interest in the politics of the earth, and his kingdom's not from here, and he's not trying to get my position, and he's not trying to take your position, what's the problem? 39. But you have a custom that I should release someone to you at the Passover. Do you therefore want me to release to you the king of the Jews? Then they all cried again, saying, Not this man, but Barabbas. And the text goes on to say, now Barabbas was a thief. He was actually a criminal. He was actually factually a criminal. 19:1. So then Pilate took Jesus and scourged him, beat him, flogged him. And the soldiers twisted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put a purple robe on him. And they said, Hail, King of the Jews, and they struck him with their hands. Pilate then went out again and said to them, Behold, I am bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him. Here's a Roman authority who's supposed to stand for peace and justice, Pax Romana, who's willing to beat a man he declared himself twice now to be innocent, to appease this mob of angry Jews. There's no justice here at all. Verse 5. Then Jesus came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, and Pilate said to them, Behold the man. Therefore, when the chief priests and officers saw him, here's a moment in time where they've had opportunity to pause, and now they have opportunity to see Jesus in the condition that Pilate has put him in to appease them, a chance for their consciences to be pricked, a chance to reconsider what they're doing. They cried out, saying, Crucify him! Crucify him! Pilate said to them, You take him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. That's 3 times now. The Jews answered him, We have a law, and according to our law, he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. Now that's quite the accusation. Either Jesus did make himself to be the Son of God, or he is the Son of God. Therefore, verse 8, Therefore, when Pilate heard that saying, he was the more afraid. Pilate was getting the strong sense there's something going on here that's bigger than me, bigger than these people. Who is this man? Who's a king of a kingdom that's not of this world? And now they're saying that he's possibly the Son of God. Verse 9. Pilate went out again into the praetorium and said to Jesus, Where are you from? But Jesus gave him no answer. Then Pilate said to him, Are you not speaking to me? Do you not know that I have the power, truth, nothing to do with this, but I do have the power, to crucify you, and power to release you? Your life, Pilate is saying, is in my hands. You might want to speak to me. Jesus answered, You could have no power at all you could have no power at all against me unless it had been given to you from above. Therefore, the one who delivered me to you has the greater sin. And who delivered him to them? Who delivered him to Pilate? The Jews. The leaders of the Jews. The church delivered him to Pilate. And Jesus says they have the greater sin. There was no need when Mel Gibson's movie came out for the media or the people to be scratching their heads wondering who really was responsible for killing Jesus. The scriptures tell us plainly. Jesus tells us plainly. So we can talk about how evil the government is all we want. In the end, it was the church. And if you go back through all the Bible stories where things really fall apart, it's always when the church becomes evil. From then on, verse 12, from then on Pilate sought to release him. But the Jews cried out, saying, "If you let this man go, you are not Caesar's friend. Whoever makes himself a king speaks against Caesar." Here's the Jews appealing to the honor of Caesar, and they're not done. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Jesus out and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the Pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha. Now it was the preparation day of Passover, about the 6th hour or noon, and he said to the Jews, "Behold your king." But they, the church, cried out, "Away with him! Away with him and crucify him." Pilate said to them, "Do you really want me to crucify your king?" And the chief priests said, "We have no king but Caesar." Which tells us clearly that they were fully invested in the empire of this world. And the only reason they ever wanted a Messiah, the only concept of Messiah that they had, was somebody who was going to come and improve their standing in this world. And when Jesus came to improve the kingdom of the human heart, to invite us into a kingdom that's about character and integrity and love and mercy and lifting up the fallen and caring about the least of these. When Jesus introduced that kind of kingdom, they had no interest. They concluded it's better that he die so we can go back to our obsession with this world and the here and the now. We just want to make Jerusalem great again. And this man is standing in our way. We have no king but Caesar. Think about that statement. And ask yourself, as I ask myself, what kingdom am I really invested in? What home is really mine? What citizenship is really mine? The church killed Jesus. And you know what Jesus warned his disciples about before he left? "These things I have spoken to you," the coming rejection of his followers. "These things I have spoken to you," just John 16, by the way. End of 15 into the beginning of 16. "These things I have spoken to you, that you should not be made to stumble." You might feel like in this tumultuous time that we're living that you are teetering. Jesus says, "I don't want you to stumble. You don't need to stumble." They, who they? The church, the corrupt church, the evil church, the church given over to the kingdom of this world. "They will put you out of their synagogues." Can't be here anymore. You're a threat to us. Better that you leave than truth be spoken here. They will put you out of their synagogues. Yes, the time is coming that whoever kills you will believe that he offers God service. Not only did the chief priests do what they did to Jesus, they did it believing they were doing God a service. And Jesus says the same thing will happen to you. What I'm appealing to you today, and will continue to appeal to you in future videos, is which kingdom are you fighting for? Which kingdom are you really a citizen in? Which value system do you truly espouse? If you're willing to compromise truth and justice and mercy and goodness and all of those values to improve your kingdom at the expense of them, you are not a follower of Jesus. You just aren't. There is only one Jesus. There is only one kingdom. There is only one value system that he stands for. We're each going to have to decide, day by day, conversation by conversation, opportunity by opportunity, which kingdom was ours. We'll see you next time.